I rented a house a couple of weeks ago. I was excited about it. I thought it would inspire my new book on urban legends. I'm 35 and have traveled a lot as a freelance writer, but this place felt different. Built in the late 1800s, it had creaky floors and peeling wallpaper. It was a bit creepy, but I liked that. I arrived around sunset. The air was cool and still. I dropped my bags and wandered through the dimly lit rooms. It felt like the house was watching me. That night, the lights began flickering. I figured it was the old wiring. A few hours later, I heard footsteps in the hallway. They were soft, but I could tell they were real. I froze, my heart racing. It felt like a chill swept through the room. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe it was just the house settling. The next few days were weird. The footsteps grew louder, almost demanding. I heard them clearly at night. I'd sit up in bed listening, wondering if I could be imagining it. One evening, I found a dusty diary tucked away in an old desk's drawer. It felt heavy in my hands as I opened it. The pages were yellow and fragile. The entries made my stomach drop. They talked of shadows moving where they shouldn't, a family consumed by dread and strange noises at night. I kept reading, even when my gut twisted. After finding the diary, I began having vivid dreams. They weren't like normal dreams. I dreamed of the family from the diary. Their faces were twisted in sadness. Every time I woke up, I felt cold, as if someone was breathing down my neck. I tried to shake it off, blaming stress from my writing. One night, I heard a loud crash coming from the living room. I crept downstairs, feeling the hairs on my arms stand up. I thought I saw something move past me, but when I turned, there was nothing. I flipped on the light. A picture frame lay shattered on the floor. It felt wrong, but I didn't call for help. Who would I even call? I felt embarrassed, like something was haunting me. The days passed slowly. I started to doubt myself. Were the diary's stories real? Everything felt tangled together. More things shifted around the house. I questioned my sanity. It felt alive, as if the house wanted to tell me something, but I wasn't sure what. One evening, as I read in the soft light of the kitchen, I heard whispers. They were faint, but seemed to call out to me. My skin prickled. I recognized my name among them. Cold air rushed past me, making the hairs on my neck stand up. I turned quickly. In the corner of the room I saw a figure. It was just there for a moment, then vanished. My heart stopped. Now I can't shake the feeling that something terrible happened in that house. I've never stopped thinking about it. I'm left with one nagging question. What really happened there? I woke up the next morning, shaking. The figure in the kitchen haunted me, clinging to my mind like a dark shadow. I got out of bed and brewed a strong cup of coffee, trying to shake off the unease. I needed to find out more about the house. I couldn't keep ignoring these signs. After breakfast, I decided to visit the local library. I hoped to dig into the history of the neighborhood and uncover whatever secrets the previous residents might have left behind. The library was old, much like my house, and it smelled of must and dust. I scoured the archives, pulling out yellowed newspapers and city records. Most articles were about mundane things, town meetings, festivals, and population growth. But then I came across a faded article written in the 1920s. It told of strange happenings in the house. I felt my heart race. Neighbors reported screams and shadows, and one entry mentioned a family that had mysteriously vanished. I couldn't contain my curiosity. I copied down the address and asked the librarian if she knew anything more. She paused, her brow furrowed. "Some say that household secrets best left uncovered," she said softly. Her expression made the hairs on my arms stand on end. I felt the weight of her words sinking in. Back home, I sat on the floor with the diary beside me. The entries felt even more disturbing when I realized I was living in the same place. The voices from last night echoed in my mind. What had those people gone through? And what if something similar was happening to me? As night fell, a thick fog rolled in. It wrapped around the house like a shroud. I pulled on a sweater and decided to investigate the living room where the crash had happened. The shattered picture frame lay still on the floor, a silent testament to whatever force these walls harbored. I felt my pulse quicken. Would I find more confirmation of the family's fate? I glanced around, searching for anything unusual. The air in the room felt electric, and I felt compelled to open the drawers of the old side table near the couch. As I rummaged through stale papers and dust, I brushed my fingers against something cold. I pulled it out, a small locket encrusted with a dark gem. That's when I saw it, a flicker in the corner of my vision. I turned quickly. This time the figure wasn't a blur. It stood clearly by the window, shrouded in mist. My breath caught in my throat. It looked like a woman, but her face was obscured. "Who are you?" I managed to croak. I took a step forward, but the figure slipped away, leaving only a chill behind. I felt my heart racing, pounding against my ribs. I clenched the locket tightly as I realized I might not be alone in this house after all. I had to know more about her. What had happened to her? I needed to figure this out before it was too late. The next morning, I woke up still feeling the chill from last night. The locket sat on my nightstand, gleaming dully in the light. I couldn't shake off the feeling that it was somehow connected to the woman I had seen. I picked it up, turning it over in my hands. There was no visible latch, and I wondered if it was meant to remain closed. I decided I had to find out more. I grabbed my jacket and headed out again, this time stopping by a small antique shop I had noticed on a previous stroll. Maybe they would know about the locket or the history of the house. The bell above the door jingled as I entered, and I was greeted by the scent of aged wood and forgotten memories. An elderly man sat behind the counter, his hands weathered and stained, moving methodically as he polished a brass lamp. "Can I help you?" he asked, peering at me with sharp blue eyes. I put on my best interested face and showed him the locket. "Do you know anything about this?" I asked. He leaned forward, squinting at it. "That's quite old. Looks like it could be a family heirloom." "What kind of family?" He paused for a moment, as if he were searching for the right words. "This area has seen many families over the years, some with darker stories than others. Do you live around here?" I nodded, feeling uneasy. "I just moved into the old house on Maple Street." His reaction was immediate. "You shouldn't go digging too deep into that place, girl. The past has a way of grabbing hold of you." I felt a surge of irritation. "I'm not afraid of the past. I want to learn the truth." The old man's eyes narrowed. "Sometimes it's better not knowing. That locket may belong to someone who never left." His warning hung in the air like smoke. I decided to press on. "What happened to them?" He sighed deeply and shook his head. "Weighty things have happened there. You might find there's too much you're not prepared for." I could see the concern etched across his face, but my curiosity was stronger. I left the shop with few answers. The unease in my stomach turned tighter. I walked home, feeling as if unseen eyes watched my every step. The fog from the night before still lingered, heavy and oppressive. Once home, I examined the locket again. It felt warm in my hands, and I noticed a faint engraving on the back. Using a cloth, I rubbed it gently. Letters slowly emerged. E.M. That was all it took. Something prickled inside me. I had to find out who E.M. was and how she was connected to the house. I could feel a thread pulling me, leading me towards something. I had to follow it, though I wasn't sure if it was discovery or danger. As I moved to the living room, a sudden crash echoed from the kitchen. I froze, heart racing. Someone was in the house. I felt the locket clutched tightly in my hand, as if it were offering protection. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky. Silence answered. I took a deliberate step forward, past my doubts and fears, bracing myself for whatever lay ahead. What would I find in the shadows? I stepped cautiously towards the kitchen, my heart thudding against my ribs. The locket felt heavy in my pocket, each step reminding me of the weight of my discovery. My breath caught when I reached the doorway and peered inside. The kitchen was dim, the light flickering as if the room itself was holding its breath. The chairs were still in place, the table bare, except for a few crumbs from breakfast. Only the old fridge hummed softly in the silence. I took a step further in, squinting into the corners where shadows lurked. Then I noticed it, a small, dark shape on the floor. As I bent down, I realized it was a photograph, crumpled and slightly torn. I picked it up and brushed off the dust. The image was faded, but showed a young woman, strikingly similar to the figure I had seen in my dreams. I felt a chill run down my spine. "EM," I whispered, recalling the engraving on the locket. That surely had to be her. I turned the photo over, searching for any clue as to who she was and what had happened to her. A sudden noise from behind startled me. I whipped around, expecting to see someone standing there, but the kitchen remained empty. The tension in the air thickened, pressuring me to leave. I felt drawn to the photo, though. Something about it felt urgent, like it held the key to my questions. Then I noticed something else. A faint shimmer near the window, almost as if light was bending oddly. I felt the air become colder, wrapping around me like a shroud. I was about to turn back when the photo slipped from my hands, fluttering to the ground. As I bent to pick it up, I glimpsed what was causing the shimmer. A glimmer of light formed into a shape behind the glass, a figure blurred but unmistakable. I blinked hard, thinking it was my imagination. But when I looked again, the figure was clearer. It was the woman from the photograph. My breath caught as she lifted a hand, pressing against the glass, her eyes wide with emotion. I felt an inexplicable pull towards her, like she was reaching out to me. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't move. All that came out was a strangled gasp. The apparition seemed to sense my fear. The shimmer flickered, and for a split second our eyes met. I could almost hear her voice, urgent and pleading, though no sound escaped her lips. Then just as suddenly as she appeared, the shimmer vanished, leaving only the cold air and a sense of loss. The room felt emptier without her presence, and a sense of determination filled me. I had to know more about her, about EM. I clutched the photo tightly in my hands. I knew my search was only beginning, that whatever had been unleashed was far from over. As I turned to leave the kitchen, the lights blinked off completely, plunging the house into darkness. My heart raced, and panic bubbled to the surface. I stumbled back, my fingers brushing the locket again. With it in my grip, I hoped for strength, for answers, as the echoes of the past began to pursue me. What had I awakened? Then came the real sound, footsteps behind me, slowly advancing in the dark. I froze, the darkness swallowing the kitchen whole. The footsteps were slow but steady, echoing in my ears like a countdown to something dreadful. My instincts screamed at me to escape, to run out of the house, but my legs felt glued to the ground. Was it just my imagination, or was there truly something there with me? Swallowing hard, I dared to inch backward, trying to feel for the doorway. But just then a low whisper curled through the air, barely audible over the pounding of my heart. "Help me." It was haunting, drawn out like a plea. The voice was familiar, yet filled with an unsettling desperation. I blinked against the dark, trying to distinguish shapes, but all I could see was the faint outline of the kitchen furniture. The rattling of dishes seemed to ripple through the silence, as if invisible hands were ransacking the cabinets. Fear gripped me. I squeezed the locket, seeking courage from its presence. It felt warm against my skin, grounding me in that moment. Suddenly the footsteps stopped. An oppressive silence enveloped the room, and I strained my ears. Had the presence left, or was it waiting? My heart raced, and I took a shaky breath, deciding I couldn't stand there any longer. I spun around, heading for the door, but before I could reach it, the light flickered back to life. The fluorescent bulbs buzzed angrily, illuminating the kitchen in stark white. My eyes darted around, desperate to find something, anything, out of place. That's when I saw it. The photograph was back on the table, perfectly intact. I hadn't put it there. I approached cautiously, my pulse quickening again. There was something written on the bottom edge that I hadn't noticed before. My fingers trembled as I picked it up. "Find me," it read in faded ink. A chill settled in my stomach. Was this a message from the woman, or was it a trick, a lure into deeper darkness? The kitchen door swung shut behind me with a loud bang. I jumped, spinning around again. Shadows twisted and danced along the walls like they were alive, and the whispering returned, louder this time but still unintelligible. Panic surged through me, propelling me toward the back door. I had to get out, I had to escape. But as I reached for the doorknob, a figure loomed behind me in the corner of my vision. I turned slowly, dread pooling in my gut. The apparition of the woman was there again, her face even more defined than before. Her eyes were wide, filled with a mix of sorrow and urgency. She was pleading for me to understand something I couldn't yet grasp. Before I could truly comprehend what I was seeing, the lights flickered again and turned off, plunging me back into darkness. I felt the coldness wrap around me, and I knew I was not alone. In that moment, the urge to flee battled with the desire to understand. I had to know what happened to EM, and the stakes were raising. I had awakened something, and it wouldn't let me go without answering its call. Then came a different voice, harsh and threatening. "You shouldn't have come here." I stiffened, realizing my fight was only just beginning. I stumbled back, my heart racing as the voice echoed in the dark. The air was thick with tension. I felt like I was drowning in it. I had to make a choice. Stay and confront whatever this was, or bolt for safety. But deep down, I knew I couldn't just run. The woman's face haunted me, and the words, "Find me," still rang in my ears. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and called into the void, "Who are you?" Silence hung for what felt like an eternity. Just as I thought I had lost my mind, the whisper returned, softer now. "Help me." With that, I made a decision. I wouldn't let fear control me. I needed answers. I gravitated toward the spot where she had appeared, hoping for a sign. My fingers brushed the cool countertop, searching for any clue that could guide me, something, anything that connected me to her. Then I noticed the floor was uneven near the old pantry door. The wood creaked beneath my touch and felt slightly raised, as if it concealed something beneath. Taking a chance, I knelt down, trying to peer into the shadowy crack. My mind raced with possibilities. Was there a hiding place, a clue left behind? Suddenly I heard the front door creak open. My heart dropped. Someone else was in the house. I froze, listening intently, but who could it be? My instinct screamed at me to hide, but curiosity anchored me in place. Footsteps continued down the hallway, and my breath quickened. I waited, listening for any sound that might indicate their intent. Then I saw a flashlight beam slicing through the dark, casting a figure's shadow across the wall. It was a man, tall and broad-shouldered, moving cautiously like he was searching for something, or someone. "EM, are you here?" he called, his voice echoing with a mix of urgency and desperation. I held my breath, peering from behind the countertop. His face was familiar, but I couldn't place him. I had never seen him in the house before. Who was he looking for? And why did the name EM spark a jolt of recognition in me? "EM!" he shouted again. "You have to answer me! I know you're here!" I should have run, but some instinct kept me rooted to the ground. I needed to know what was happening. This man might have the answers I was seeking. He moved toward the kitchen, the beam of light illuminating the space. I felt a moment of panic. If he came closer, he would see me. But just as he reached the doorway, the lights flickered back on, and I was exposed. Our eyes met. I felt the air thicken with something unspoken, a connection that stretched across the fear and confusion. I wanted to scream, to ask who he was and what he wanted with EM, but nothing came out. Instead, he took a step back, his expression shifting to one of shock. "Who are you?" he demanded, tightening his grip on the flashlight. That's when I heard a distant scream. It wasn't him. It wasn't me. I felt the coldness wash over again, recognizing the haunting cries that seeped from the walls. Something was happening, and I realized with sickening dread that this was just the beginning. My pulse quickened, the man's question hanging in the air as the scream echoed again, sharper this time. It seemed to reverberate through the house, and I flinched at the sound. The symptom of dread clawed at my stomach. I needed to act, but my mind raced too fast for clarity. "Who are you?" I finally managed to stammer back. Panic spilled into my voice, and I hated it. Whoever this man was, he felt like a thread unraveling, pulling me into a nightmare. Before he could answer, the scream returned, sending chills cascading down my spine. It was closer now, as if the presence haunting the house had decided to make itself known. I braced myself against the countertop, my fingers digging into the wood as dread blanketed my senses. The man's flashlight flickered and dimmed. He cursed under his breath, swatting at the beam as if to wake it from sleep. His eyes darted around the kitchen, searching. But I sensed that he could feel it too, that there was something undeniably wrong here, something waiting just beyond sight. "What brought you here?" he asked, though his voice trembled slightly, betraying his fear. "You have to leave, now." I shook my head, electrified by something deeper than fear. "No, I can't leave. I need to know what's happening." He hesitated, visibly conflicted. "If you're here for EM, it's too late," he said, his voice low and cracked. It was then that I saw it. A flicker of recognition cutting across his eyes as he took a cautious step forward. "You look like her. That name again. EM." It rolled off his tongue like an incantation. The connection didn't just ignite my curiosity, it sparked a desperate need to uncover the truth. "Who is EM? What happened to her?" "Come with me," he urged, glancing toward the hallway, the weight of his urgency apparent. "We need to find her before it's too late." I followed him out of the kitchen, but dread clung to me like a shroud. We moved through the darkened house, the air thicker the deeper we went. As we approached a door at the end of the hall, the atmosphere shifted. An electric tension crackled in the air, unsettling and wrong. "Here," he whispered, stopping short and looking down at the floor near the threshold. "This is where I last saw her." I stepped closer, confusion flooding my senses. The door was ajar, a dark abyss yawning before us. I felt drawn to it, an inexplicable pull as if the shadows within were calling to me. Heart racing, I reached out, fingertips brushing the cold doorknob. But just as I turned it, the scream from earlier blared again, piercing and close. It felt like it was coming from the very walls of the house, an otherworldly wail echoing with anguish. I stumbled back, the dread morphing into something more primal. "What is that?" I gasped, panic snaking through my veins. The man's face paled. "It's trying to warn us," he breathed, watching the door in horror. "But we need to go inside." Every instinct screamed for me to run, to escape this nightmare, but I found my feet rooted to the spot, caught between fear and the need for understanding. It was too late to go back now. In that moment I rationalized. If I found her, maybe I could end this torment. My resolve hardened, and I pushed the door open wider. That's when I saw it, a flicker of white in the shadow, a glimpse of something that felt both achingly familiar and terrifyingly out of reach. "You shouldn't have done that," he shouted, lunging toward me. But it was too late. The darkness consumed us. The darkness swallowed us whole, and for a moment, time ceased to exist. I felt the man's hand brush against my shoulder, then it was gone, Panic surged. I was alone in the void, encased in a silence so profound it stifled my breath. I fumbled for the doorframe, trying to find my way back, but it had vanished, leaving only a suffocating darkness. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic drumbeat urging me to escape. I squeezed my eyes shut, attempting to steady myself. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling, swallowed by the void. A low whisper snaked through the air, a disembodied murmur that sent chills through my body. The words were indistinct, a chorus of hushed voices tangling together, rising and falling like a wind that didn't exist. I strained to make sense of them, but they only deepened my confusion. Suddenly a flicker of light caught my eye. I turned, drawn to it like a moth to flame. It pulsated softly, giving the impression of life within the cold shadows. I edged closer, each step tentative. The light grew, illuminating a small figure standing at the edge of the glow. A girl. "E.M.?" I breathed, the name spilling from my lips before I could think. She looked just like me, an uncanny reflection except for the emptiness in her eyes. "Help me," she whimpered, her voice brittle and fading, trapped within the encroaching shadows. Energized by her plea, I rushed forward. "Where are you? I came to find you." But as I reached out, she stepped back, the light dimming with every movement. "You shouldn't have come here. It's not safe," she cried, her voice shaky. The shadow around her surged, reaching for me like grasping fingers. "No, wait!" I shouted, my heart racing. I felt the pull of the darkness behind me, the chill creeping back as it tried to shroud me again. I instinctively grasped for her, desperate to close the distance. "Please," she repeated, desperation coloring her tone. "It knows you're here. You have to go. You don't belong to this place." Right then, the pressure swelled, a wave of dread crashing over me. I glanced over my shoulder, and there it was. The man, now partially illuminated by the flickering light, his face twisted in anguish. "Run!" he yelled, panic flaring in his eyes. Before I could react, the shadows lunged at me, pulling me back. The girl's figure distorted as she screamed, her voice resonating through the void. "You must break the cycle!" With a final yank, darkness swallowed her whole, and in that moment I was thrust back into the hallway. I gasped, light flooding my senses. The kitchen loomed before me, the eerie grip of the house releasing its hold. The man lay on the floor, breathless with wide eyes, as if he had seen death itself. "What just happened?" I gasped, trying to catch my breath. The urgency of the moment crackled around us, yet I was filled with more questions than answers. But before he could respond, the scream echoed one last time, the walls trembling with its power. I looked at him, determination igniting within me. "We have to help her. We can't leave now." He nodded, swallowed by fear and resolve. "Then we need to find a way back." Just as we turned, a heavy thump sounded from behind. Someone, or something, was climbing the stairs. The air thickened with dread. We were not alone. The noise grew louder, a relentless thud resonating against the stairs. My heart raced, each beat echoing the urgency of the moment. I exchanged a glance with the man. His face was pale, eyes wide. Fear etched deep lines across his features. "What do we do?" I whispered, desperate for a plan. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Instead, he took a shaky breath and motioned for me to follow him. We crept toward the end of the hallway, hearts hammering in sync. The thuds continued, steady and chilling. A countdown, perhaps. I felt as if the shadows were wrapped around us, biding their time. We found ourselves next to a door leading to the basement. I hesitated, my stomach twisting in dread. "Do we want to go down there?" He looked at me, his expression hardening. "It's the only option. We have to find a way to help her, and we can't stay here." Before I could argue, he pushed the door open and it creaked ominously, revealing a dark staircase spiraling downward, swallowed by gloom. "After you," he urged, nodding toward the abyss. Taking a deep breath, I stepped forward. each footfall stirring dust that danced in the faint sliver of light above. I could hear the man behind me following closely, our breaths mingling with the oppressive silence of the basement. With every step, I felt the air thicken, brushing against my skin like icy fingers. I wished for a flashlight but didn't dare speak the words aloud. Instead, I relied on the sliver of dim light, which gradually faded the deeper we descended. At the bottom, the stairs opened into a wide room, its walls lined with shadows. I scanned the area, heart racing as I noticed a series of old boxes and forgotten furniture, a graveyard of memories. But as my eyes adjusted, a glint caught my gaze, the remnants of something reflecting in the darkness. "What is that?" I asked, pointing toward the flickering light at the far corner, barely perceptible, but drawing me in like a magnet. He stepped beside me, eyes narrowing as he examined the light. "I don't know, but we should check it out." We approached carefully. The shadows shifted around us, whispering secrets I couldn't quite grasp. When we got closer, I gasped. The source of the light was a small, worn mirror, propped against the wall, casting a soft glow. "Why is it here?" I wondered aloud. The mirror seemed ordinary, yet it exuded a pulse, the kind that felt alive. "I don't know, but maybe it's connected to her." He stepped closer, the light illuminating his face, steeling his nerves. "Perhaps it can help us find EM." I nodded, hope mingling with fear. But the moment I reached out to touch the mirror's cracked surface, a cold wind blasted through the room. The air around us grew thick and heavy, rippling like a disturbed pond. "Something's wrong," he gasped, panic surfacing in his voice. Suddenly a figure appeared in the mirror, swirling amidst the light. It was a ghostly silhouette, vague, yet undeniably familiar. I took a step back, my breath hitching in my throat. "Is that—" he whispered. "EM?" Before we could react, the reflection twisted violently, and the coolness turned to an unsettling heat, sending a jolt of fear racing through me. I stumbled back, a warning echoing in my mind. We were not safe here. Then the sound of the heavy thumps returned, now accompanied by frantic scratching at the door above. We had little time. "Whatever that is, it's coming for us," I said, feeling the urgency tighten as the figure in the mirror began to scream. "Then we need to break whatever cycle this is," he urged, eyes narrowing in determination. "Quick, think of something." Before I could respond, the mirror suddenly shattered, and darkness erupted around us, engulfing the room. The darkness enveloped us like an inky shroud, the once tangible reality dissolving into an abyss of frightening uncertainty. I felt the pressure of the void press against my skin, smothering and suffocating, while the echoes of the woman's scream ricocheted in my mind. Panic surged through me as I flailed, trying to find something solid to grasp. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, everything shifted. Light burst forth, flooding my senses. I gasped for breath, collapsing onto cool, tiled ground. I blinked my eyes open and stared up at an unfamiliar ceiling, completely oriented, yet feel strangely disoriented. As I pushed myself to sit up, I saw that I was alone, a stark contrast to the chaos of moments ago. The man who had come with me, where was he? Panic seized me again. "Hello?" I called, my voice echoing in the empty room. No answer. The room was dim, illuminated only by a single hanging bulb. I recognized it as part of the basement, a familiar place from my fleeting moments before the mirror burst. Was it a dream? I pinched my arm to feel the sharpness of reality. It pinched back, sending a jolt through me. Peering around the room, I felt that same emptiness that consumed me before. Boxes lined the walls, cobwebs clung to the corners, and the musty smell hung heavy in the air. I scrambled to my feet, trying to shake off that feeling of being trapped. With shaking hands, I opened the door leading to the stairs. Standing there hesitantly, I could hear nothing, no footsteps, no noise, only silence. I stepped onto the first step, the age-old wood creaking beneath me, echoing unsettlingly in the silence. My heart raced, split between fear and something else, an unshakable urge to discover what happened next. As I reached the top, I hesitated. Light seeped in from the kitchen, but before I could enter, I glanced back, feeling that flash of connection to EM again, an unseen tether anchoring me to the past. If it was true that she had called out for help, then surely something awaited beyond that door, perhaps answers or yet more questions. Yet even that thought felt fraught with danger. Everything I had experienced here, the whispering, the shadows, the man's urgency, it felt like a dream turned nightmare. I placed my hand on the doorknob, my fingers trembling. EM, I whispered, allowing the name to linger in the air. It felt like a key, unlocking something deep within. I opened the door slowly, my breath caught in my throat. The air rushed around me, filled with an eerie quiet. I stepped into the kitchen, expecting to encounter the same stillness I had felt earlier. But the room was different now. The oppressive nature that had suffocated me was gone, replaced by an unfamiliar calm. In the corner, the shattered pieces of the mirror glinted in sunlight, and I found I was drawn to them. The glass felt cool against my fingertips, a chilling reminder of everything that had unfolded. I scanned the room for any sign of the man, any trace of him, but found nothing. Then I noticed something near the window. The figure was back, faint yet unmistakably there. It looked like EM. Standing bathed in an ethereal light, she made no movement, as if waiting for me to understand. I took a step toward her, my heart pounding. EM, help me understand what happened. The figure flickered, a wave of energy pulsating through me. I could feel the anguish, the desperation. It hung in the air, thick with unspoken words. Find... She mouthed silently, a fragment hovering just beyond reach. In that heartbeat, I grasped the locket still hanging around my neck, the warmth pulsating through the cool grasp of despair. Time seemed to freeze. Maybe the answer was right in front of me, woven into the very fabric of this house. I turned to the darkness outside, letting a rush of courage take hold. I stepped through the threshold into the unknown, leaving that kitchen and its unsettling silence behind. The air felt lighter, charged with possibility, as I realized there were many unanswered threads. What had truly happened to the families who once called this place home? What of EM's fate? So much remained unknown, and my heart urged me onward. The lingering chill of uncertainty settled in the pit of my stomach as I left the house behind. I'd escaped, yes, but what had I awoken in the process? I needed to discover more, seek out the truth about this house, about EM. And I had a feeling it was just the beginning. My life would never be the same. I stepped out into the world beyond the threshold, the sun bright above, and as I walked away, I felt the house's gaze upon me, a silent promise that the stories would follow, whispering in the shadows. I couldn't help but wonder, would I ever truly leave it behind?